1 years ago tonight, Dale Earnhardt died. Through a remarkable set of circumstances, KCTV5 broke the news that would leave millions of NASCAR fans heartbroken.
Teresa Earnhardt just sent shockwaves around the NASCAR community with her unexpected words regarding Dale Earnhardt Sr., words that no one ever anticipated hearing. What she said ripped open secrets long laid to rest and changed forever the way folks view the legacy of the Intimidator. This is no trivial tale. These are disclosures that potentially deepen the fissures among the Earnhardt family, and the shock still travels across racing communities. So what did Teresa actually say? Why is it so monumental? And what is the truth behind this moment that makes it so severe? In her blunt assertion, Teresa put everyone on notice where she stands. I have protected everything Dale built. If anyone thinks they deserve it more than me, they need to face the truth. Those 3 sentences alone sent fans into shock. Not only did they verify her sole position as guardian of Dale's legacy, but they also delivered a clear and undeniable message to Dale's children. For many, it was not merely a declaration of protection, but a line in the sand. Teresa's announcement centered on her ownership of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated DI and all associated holdings. In her account, every choice she made throughout the years, even the ones that were resented by everyone, had one motive: safeguarding Dale's legacy. Dale trusted me. He placed everything on me to take care of. I will not let anyone ruin that work, she asserted. Those words immediately rekindled years of festering tension. The battle for control of DEI and the Earnhardt name has been a hot potato for years. But today, Teresa herself established that her actions were final and never subject to review. The news created a ripple effect throughout the NASCAR family and the Earnhardt family. For years, fans had quietly hoped that Teresa might eventually soften her stance, opening the door for Dale Jr., Kelly, or Kerry Earnhardt to share in their father's legacy. But her latest words did the opposite. They revealed that her long silence was never hesitation, it was strategy. She wasn't waiting out of fear. She was waiting for the right moment to reaffirm her dominance. In her direct conversation, Teresa talked directly about access to Dale Sr.'s legacy, such as intimately personal locations connected with him. Everything that was Dale's is now mine to control. I open it when I deem appropriate, and I close it when I need to, she stated. It was a forceful, almost brutal message which made absolutely clear: she alone gets to decide who gets to touch Dale's memory and who does not. Maybe the most remarkable thing she said was how she remembered her time following the years after Dale's fateful death at Daytona in 2001. She acknowledged it was the darkest and most heartbreaking period of her life, yet it was the one when she understood the extent of the responsibility Dale had placed in her care. He chose me. He believed in me. I will go that way to the end, she said. To some, they spoke like loyalty. To others, they spoke like ownership that did not include the very individuals who had Dale's blood. For years, Kelly, Kerry, and Dale Jr. Earnhardt had cherished the hope that eventually Teresa would open up to them and let them be an active part of their father's heritage. With this latest announcement, though, that window seems closed for good. Teresa's breaking of her silence is not merely a personal communication. It is a statement of authority. It indicates that the Earnhardt heritage will continue to be defined by her vision alone, no matter what the family thinks. Why did Teresa remain quiet for so long? In her view, she had no obligation to prove anything to anyone but Dale himself. And since Dale passed away, she only needed to respect what he left behind for her. Now, by speaking at last, Teresa demonstrates loyalty not to Dale's children's and fans' expectations, but to the place she thought Dale himself assigned her. Naturally, this recent comment didn't come out of thin air. It resonates with decades of friction, disagreement, and acrimonious splits between Teresa and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 3 children from a previous marriage, Dale Jr., Kelly, and Kerry. These have burned softly like profound fissures within the family, tending to grow wider under the glare of NASCAR's merciless media. At the center of these controversies has always been one thing: power. Dale Jr. was once the future face of DEI, the natural son of the sport in the eyes of millions of fans. He attracted huge crowds, bore his father's name onto the track, and was adored as NASCAR's most popular driver year in and year out. Behind the scenes, however, every choice was run through Teresa. When Dale Jr. pushed for more power within DEI to make the family more prominent, Teresa blocked him in every direction. That rejection ultimately led Dale Jr. to step away from the team his father created, one that stunned fans and left wounds never to heal. When Dale Jr. departed from DEI, the consequences were enormous. Sponsors defected, team spirit shattered, and a former NASCAR powerhouse started to destabilize. The business that had been a beacon of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s unparalleled greatness gradually lost its grip on the limelight. But Teresa did not budge. She was convinced that strict leadership was the only means by which to keep Dale's name alive, even if it came at the expense of the very individuals most directly associated with him. The battles did not stop there. Kelly Earnhardt, who handled Dale Jr.'s career, often discussed how she and her brothers felt excluded from their father's heritage. Property that belonged in the family, she asserted, was tightly held by Teresa. Kerry Earnhardt also had his battles when he tried to introduce a housing line entitled Earnhardt Collection. Teresa attempted to have it blocked by suing on grounds of ownership of the Earnhardt name. For Kerry, it was not just a lawsuit. It was evidence that Teresa was intent on owning up to anything connected to Dale's name, no matter how intimate. Even symbolic issues turned into battlefields. Dale Jr.'s legendary number 8 car, forever identified with his early years, was under Teresa's dominion. When Dale Jr. departed DEI, she would not allow him to keep using it. Fans viewed this as a cold, calculating move that cut one of the most emotional strings between father and son. The number meant something to Teresa in terms of strategy. To the Earnhardt kids, it was family tradition. Even the most holy of spaces were invaded by the disputes. Who had access to Dale Sr.'s gravesite was controlled by Teresa, making his children feel as far removed from their father as possible in the most intimate of ways. For a family that was already broken, this was a sad reminder of how far the rift had grown. Throughout it all, Teresa seemed to be the one with every key. She determined who could have access to what. She determined whether or not projects were born and killed. She determined how the Earnhardt name would be utilized and in what arena. To her, Dale's legacy was never a joint inheritance. It was an obligation she was singularly selected to fulfill. But who is this person, Teresa Earnhardt, the woman at the center of all this controversy? To comprehend her move, we must get back to the start. Teresa grew up in Hickory, North Carolina, in a family heavily influenced by racing. She was the niece of driver Tommy Houston and cousin of Andy Houston, both of whom drove for top-tier series. Though she majored in commercial art and interior design, racing was always present in her background. This combination of arts and motorsport exposure provided her with the rare skill set that would later characterize her career. In the late 1970s, Teresa and Dale Earnhardt met at a racing event. Dale was already establishing his reputation as a fearless driver, earning the moniker the Intimidator. Their initial meeting gave way to a relationship that became integral to both of their lives. They married in 1982, and Teresa became not only Dale's wife, but his business partner in constructing a motorsports empire. Together, they built Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, a team that soon blossomed into one of NASCAR's most dominant organizations. While Dale was busy winning on the track, Teresa managed the business. She was the one who secured sponsorships, created merchandise, and made Dale's name a cultural phenomenon. By the 1990s, DEI was no longer a racing team, it was a force. Titles in the Busch and Truck Series showed the team's competitive fire, while merchandise and media deals turned Dale into a household name. When their daughter, Taylor Nicole Earnhardt, was born in 1988, Teresa took on the role of mother while still managing the growing empire. Taylor pursued horseback riding rather than racing, staying out of the spotlight, but Teresa remained firmly in charge of DEI's future. She was always behind the scenes, rarely speaking to media, but always pulling the strings. All that came to an end on February 18th, 2001, when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died tragically in the Daytona 500. Teresa was suddenly thrust into a position that no one could be jealous of. She was the CEO of DEI and the caretaker of a legacy held in trust by millions of fans. In the early years following Dale's death, DEI prospered. Michael Waltrip captured the Daytona 500 on that same day. Dale Jr. was still a contender. The team seemed to be sturdy. Teresa forced DEI into new pursuits, such as international expansion, entertainment, and brand extension. She sought mergers and alliances, such as one with Chip Ganassi that provided Daytona 500 victory again with Jamie McMurray. Stability was tenuous, however. The departure of Dale Jr., both as a driver and spokesman for the franchise, was an open wound that would never close, and in 2014 DEI, as a standalone racing organization, no longer existed. But Teresa never relinquished control. She steered DEI instead into a firm dealing in intellectual properties and brand management, in addition to operating the Dale Earnhardt Foundation, which donated to causes that supported education and the environment. Over the past few years, Teresa has kept causing a stir. From the war over the number 8 to her contentious proposal to sell Earnhardt family property to be developed into industry, everything she does turns out to fire up controversy. Her own family members, such as Carrie, have publicly called her out, and documentaries have aired about the tension between her and Dale's kids. Nevertheless, she stays quiet in public and gets things done behind the scenes. Teresa Earnhardt is now one of NASCAR's most polarizing and complicated personalities. On the one hand, she has worked hard to guard Dale's heritage, keeping his name in the public eye through foundations, trademarking, and brand control. On the other hand, she has been criticized for closing the door to the very individuals who share his heart and blood. Her is not simply the widow continuing her husband's legacy. Her is the tale of power, control, loyalty, and family strife. In her mind, the legacy is the person whom Dale trusted most, herself. In others' minds, it is his children, his fans, and the larger racing community. And so the controversy rages on. Teresa's new declaration indicates that she has no plans of giving up control. The Earnhardt name, in her view, is still hers to control, hers to guard, and hers to mold.